okay, why did you delete your long post on the timeline? Because new information has come in and it's changed everything about the way that I think about what happened. I think that when the kids got home from the doctor's appointment for Cora, when the kids went back with Lindsay and they went outside and Callan was down for a nap, I think that the big window in between is because Patrick already did something to Lindsay, either when the kids were coming inside or like I think somehow Lindsay and the kids were separated. Patrick is outside with Lindsay. She's otherwise incapacitated outside. And he leaves her out there. I think that's why he left the bedroom window open, because he knew he had to account for her body temperature being so low, because I think he left her out there for hours, and then around 4 p.m. is when he starts to enact the rest of the plan to explain what happened. And this is the thing. The new information that has come in that has changed the way that I think about this timeline, I can't credit the content creator who came up with this, because it came from a post from one of those repeater accounts where they take other people's content and repost it as their own, and you have no way of finding out who to credit for that. So whoever this is, you're a freaking genius. Somebody did an experiment with a stake because they were trying to figure out these inexplicable marks that the doctors can't figure out what happened to Lindsay's neck, why her thyroid is crushed, etc., why she has the swelling and edema of her neck. So this content creator took a stake, put it in a windowsill, slammed it shut, and the inexplicable marks are almost identical on this piece of stake. And so now this is what changes about my timeline. I think that Lindsay has been incapacitated outside for hours. Patrick starts to initiate his plan at 4 to make it look like Lindsay's doing all of these things. I have a couple of different posts that people don't know that I've talked about: the Apple Watch call, the AI cloning of her voice potentially, and or the potential use of a code, an AI generated code to force a call back. But all of this is somewhat different now, because what I think happened is Patrick has to carry Lindsay up to the bedroom, and we have documentation that Lindsay's heart rate doesn't change during this period of time, not in relation to walking up the 3 flights of stairs, not in relation to what we're to believe is the time period that she's acting out this stuff against her kids. And so I think she's incapacitated. Patrick carries her up the stairs, which is why her heart rate doesn't change. And he leaves her on the bed. He locks the door and he leaves the window open because he has to account for why her body temperature has dropped so low. So he goes back downstairs to his office, 5:24. He answers the work email, but he carries out what happens to the kids right before he leaves. So instead of leaving at 5:15, he actually leaves around 5:29. So after the work email, I think he carries out what happens to the kids, and it happens so close because he's trying to account for Lindsay doing this. And so he's already made sure, he's already Googled to find out the time that it takes to get to CVS, etc., because he's not somebody who's trying to build a window of opportunity to do things. He's trying to build a window of time to ensure that he's documenting that he's not at home at these specific times. So he's making sure that the medicine is there so that he can buy it and get the receipt to prove that he wasn't at home at XYZ time. So he leaves to go start this plan, and he's thinking he's going to call Lindsay, who he thinks her body temperature is going to be enough to end her life after being incapacitated. So he thinks he's just going to call, she's not going to answer, and he's going to be able to say later on that oh yeah, she must have been doing this, that's why she didn't answer the phone. Instead, Lindsay regains just enough consciousness after being alerted from her Apple Watch that Patrick called. She has just enough consciousness to realize figures out how to call him back. This scares him and alerts him that he has to go back and continue doing something else. He goes home and he knows he has to finish the job, so he panics, grabs a sharp object, runs up to the room, and Lindsay sees that he has this sharp object and maybe that he's not acting right. She panics and is scared, and she's trying to make an exit. So she goes for the bedroom window, whether to call out, etc. I don't think she has much more energy than that. She goes to crawl out the window and he slams it shut, incapacitates her, and then he has to finish this job still. So she's incapacitated. He's able to do the slicing, and now he's still got to figure out, like, this obviously isn't enough to end her. So now he has to pick her up. He sets down the knife. He has to move the bed in order to get her out the window. But while he's doing this, that accounts for the perfect circular droplets and why there's no real, like, lateral movement and no splashing, because he's holding her while it's dripping down, straight down. Then he is able to get her to the window and dumps her out. But because he doesn't know anything about medical, he has no idea that what he's done with the windowsill is going to cause swelling and edema of her throat, constricting her airway and making it nearly impossible for her to talk. He doesn't know that. He's not a medical person. So he's also dumped her out the window and is thinking that she's just going to continue passing away from either the injuries from the sharp object or now the cold exposure. And so now he runs off to go finish his alibi. And because he's done this with Lindsay, that's how there's the smear on the inside of the door handle. But he has to account for that and blame it on Lindsay. But then he also realizes, like, he needs to change his clothes. So he changes, runs, and completes the 3V situation. And then he has no idea that she can't talk. And that's why he's trying to convince people that she said that the kids are in the basement. I do not see Lindsay being capable of doing all of these things in the window that he wants us to believe that it happened. Absolutely not. And kudos to the content creator for doing that experiment. I would have never thought to figure out what could cause that type of an injury, but you are a freaking genius, and I think that you've given us a real workable answer.